Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first predictions video of the year. You will see a lot more videos like this throughout the year. So, to kind of shape up what it will look like throughout the season, Tuesdays we'll be doing a recap video. We're going to do something different this year. So, and I think, most of you have been in the league for a few years. So you kind of know what we've been doing. We're switching up a little bit in how we used to do it. Before, I would just do one predictions recap. I would type it out. It would take us forever to read through it, but it would just pretty much give kind of a recap from last week on how everything shaped up, and then what my predictions were for the upcoming matchups for the week. So, but now since we're kind of doing the video, I think it'll actually be a lot more fun if we split it up. So you'll see then typically on Tuesdays, as soon as it is finalized, and perhaps on the week, maybe it would be Wednesday, but somewhere right after when the actual season, fantasy season, or fantasy week finalizes, then we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about, the winners and the losers, what it looked like, and how it moved everybody around for the standings and playoff standing, all that kind of stuff. And then Fridays or Saturdays, or maybe really early Sundays, kind of depending on the week before the actual Sunday games kick off, we'll do a predictions video. And that will be just old school of what we used to do in this league. And honestly, I think it's what everybody's come to enjoy a lot in this league, to be able to look at not only, the matchups for the week, but be able to do a little bit of trash talking. And we'll break it down. We'll look at all six matchups each week. We'll kind of break it down and who's favored and what that's going to look like. And of course, then I will pick who I feel is going to win the week. So that's kind of what that will look like throughout the season. So what we're going to do tonight, it's going to be a shorter video. We're going to save the actual weekly predictions until a little bit later in the week. So you'll see that again still Friday or Saturday. But what we're going to do tonight is some season predictions. And actually, it ended up turning into a playoff predictions, which we typically do in this league anyways. We kind of, at the very beginning of the year, right after the draft, we pick who's going to make the playoffs. And then towards the end of the year, we love to see how close we came. So let's jump into it. So we've got 5 2023 season predictions that we're going to talk about. So number 1, the 2 new league members will both make the playoffs. Why, you ask? A couple of reasons. One, both drafted well, and I know Adam, he drafted Cup, but he'll get through it. And, anybody who's had Cup on their team knows that they have to deal with possible injuries and sitting for a week. But when he does play, he makes up for it. But they both drafted well, and honestly, they both really seem to know their stuff. They both came to the draft, it seems like, with a good plan. And executed to it. I kind of looked at even their benches, there's a lot of depth on there. So I feel really good that both Dez and Adam will make the playoffs. So if you're keeping track, there's 2 out of the 6 that will make the playoffs. Number 2 on our list. Well, let's not talk about who will make the playoffs, but who will not. Both Cash brothers will miss the playoffs again. Why do we say again? Well, let's recap last year. If you weren't in the league last year, or even if you were in the league and you forgot, Jeremy and Sean finished 11th and 12th in the league. So that is last and second to last on here. And if you're curious on how well they did for the year, they had a combined record of 3-25. So they didn't have a stellar year. And I'm not going to wish that same type of record on them, of course. They usually actually have a high track record in this league, and they have won a lot in this league, but they struggled last year, and you know what? I'm going to say they do it again. For multiple reasons, let's just say, but I feel there's a lot of new young talent in this league, and I just feel like switching it up to, through Sleeper and doing a keeper league that, all of us are energized. It's going to be a challenge this year, but I'm just going to pick that. Unfortunately, both Cash brothers will not make the playoffs. So. But again, it's just my picks. So Jeremy, Sean, you're listening. Prove me wrong. Make it happen. Let's see. I'm going to hold on. Pause for a second because I'm also doing John's draft here to make sure that I am ready for that. So if that goes off and beeps all of a sudden, you know that I'm multitasking here. So, all right, number 3. Both her brothers will make the playoffs. Again, notice that I said that. Once again, why do I say that? Because both Jake and I made the playoffs last year. Pause. Let me take a pick. John's league here. Fantastic. Looks good. All right. So Jake and I finished 5th and 6th last year. Although we didn't end up winning the league, we both made the playoffs. And looking at both of our rosters again, talking to Jake, I know when Jake came to the draft, he didn't feel like he was prepared, but I think walking out, looking at his team, he's in a pretty good spot with who we drafted and how we drafted. So I feel pretty confident that both Jake and I, once again, will make the playoffs. I could probably also predict that neither of us will win it, just because that's how it works. I always make the playoffs, yet I never win, or I've won once or so when it's mattered and we've had money on the line. So, anyways, moving on. Number 4, Clint will make the playoffs after a very slow start to the season. Last year, Clint made the playoffs. Clint did I think, really well during the beginning of the year, slipped a little bit, and then ended up climbing his way into the playoffs and then finished 4th as of last year. So looking at his schedule, I think he's got some tough matchups at the beginning of the year. He'll fight through them, make the right decisions, and then overall, by the end of the year, Clint will be in the playoffs. So, and that leaves us our last one, which would be our number 5 season prediction on here. So if we kind of look at if we've said the 2 newbies will make the playoffs, Cash Brothers will not, but Jake and I will, so there's 4. Clint will make it, so there's 5. So there's one more that we haven't talked about that I honestly think are going to make the playoffs. And recapping a little bit of last year, I know during the draft, we gave our trophy presentation out to Ian, who finished number 1 last year. Once again, congrats, Ian. That'll be the last time I ever mention it now that once we start the new year, just so we don't have to be reminded that Ian won last year. We'll just go with that. Let's see. Regular season champ, if I remember correct, though, was John. He finished the season last year at number 2, but he was by far one of the best during the regular season. Jay also did really well last year. He finished, looks like 10-4. He was number 3 on the year. Will had a really strong team last year as well. I mean, he finished, looked like overall number 7. He just missed the playoffs, but he's really, really close. But I'm not picking any of them. I'm actually making a very strong, bold prediction that our last team owner to make the playoffs will be Josh. Josh Henderson will make the playoffs. Why do you ask? You always talk trash about Josh. Listen, he's due. The man is due. Last year, hold on, I gotta pause again. I gotta make a pick. Sorry, Josh, that's just right in the spot of talking all real nice about you, and then I have to steer away to pick. All right. But no, Josh is due. I know I give him a lot of crap. He had a strong run towards the end of last year. I do think he's going to learn from that. I've looked at his team. His team was strong. Although we had a lot going on during draft night, I like his team. I do. I think he drafted well. He's got a lot of depth on his bench. And I just think he's going to be even a little bit more bought in this year to make it happen. Just because he was close last year, he definitely was. He finished actually in the 8th spot, but if I remember right, he was fighting for the playoffs all the way up until really the last couple of weeks. And I'm also just going to throw out a reminder, Josh. Listen, I've made the playoffs every year that I've been in your league, so yeah, you are due to make the playoffs in my league. So there you go. There are the 6 teams that I predict that will make the playoffs this year. If I didn't call your name as one of the teams to make it, or if you're one of the Cash Brothers, again, it's just me talking. Season hasn't even started. You can start strong in week 1 and prove all the doubters wrong. So remember, of course, games start on Thursday with a big Lions game. Make sure, of course, hopefully we've all requested that night off to be able to watch that game the time the season starts. And then you'll see my actual predictions video come out probably Friday or Saturday. And we will actually break down all the matchups for week 1. So, all right, guys. Well, good luck starting on Thursday, and then we'll talk to you real soon here with our next video.